I always get extremely excited whenever Xiaomi send me a Mi-Stery box, aka mystery box, but this one is different since it actually requires some effort to get into. Once opened, we are welcomed to a puzzle set that wasn't complicated to figure out at all, and I managed to do so in about 10 seconds or so. And when completed, spells out "Rise to the challenge." Well, Xiaomi, challenge accepted. There are three-digit combination locks required to open the box, and my first thought is specifications. So I grab my notepad and my pen and start jotting down all the specs of Redmi's latest mid-range device. The first code I cracked was 120, standing for its 120Hz refresh rate panel. The second one landed up being 108, the megapixel count of its main camera sensor. And the third combo unlocked with 067 since the phone packs in a 67 watt turbo charging. Which leads us to the most exciting part of this challenge, opening the box and seeing what's inside. And you guessed it, with no help from this video's title and thumbnail, it's the brand new Redmi Note 11 Pro 5G. This is actually the global version of the device that launched in China a few months back, aside from a few differences which I'll be covering in this video. In the box, we are treated to a silicon case as well as the specs written on the device's packaging that we use to unlock the Mi-Stery box. The prices at the top right corner are in relation to the current global prices of the phone. We also get a Type A to Type C charging cable and 67 watt turbo charger bundled in the box. This is Technic, and this is my unboxing and review of the Redmi Note 11 Pro 5G. The device comes in 3 different color options. You can pick it up in polar white, Atlantic blue, or the color that I have here with me today called graphite gray. It looks pretty stunning if you ask me, very subtle, very stealthy. I really like how it shimmers in the light with that gray-black finish. The camera module looks a tad different to the domestic version. We have a 5000 mAh battery packed inside with 67 watt turbo wire charging, a Snapdragon 695 chipset, and an IP53 dust and splash protection certification. The display has Gorilla Glass 5 protection. We have a plastic frame wrapping around the device and a glass back. It is just 8.12 millimeters thick and 202 grams in weight. Inside that funky looking camera module sits an 8 megapixel ultra-wide sensor with a field of view of 118 degrees, a main 108 megapixel Samsung ISOCELL HM2 sensor, and completing the trio is a 2 megapixel macro sensor. The 8 megapixel ultra-wide still looks okay. It's a bit of a gloomy day here in Shanghai. It can't stop raining. The main 108 megapixel looks pretty good. Looks even better with 9:1 binning it down to 12 megapixels. Same thing can be said with 2x zoom since you can capture it at 108 or 12 megapixels. Once we go to 5x zoom, things don't look the best, and 10x is the max zoom, and once again doesn't look the best, but this is a pretty budget friendly phone, so I'll forgive it for that one. The macro lens does an okay job, I guess you could say, but the portrait mode actually does a pretty darn good job with almost decent edge detection. We do have 1080p at 30 FPS back recording, unfortunately no 4K here and no 60 FPS, which is a bit of a bummer since the domestic version here in China does support 4K 30 as well as 1080p 60, but the domestic version is also capping its ultra-wide camera at 1080p 30, which is what this device is doing too, though it doesn't look the worst that I've seen around. The cameras are a bit of a mixed bag, but I mean, it's understandable. This phone is really well priced. We have a power button mixed up with a fingerprint sensor on the right-hand side, as well as a volume rocker. At the bottom, we do have a dual SIM 5G standby tray. It does have a water-resistant seal and does support micro SD expandable storage up to 1 terabyte. We have a USB port at the bottom, as well as the first dual stereo speaker, second one at the top, both paired with Dolby Atmos, a 3.5 headphone jack, which is a big plus over here, as well as an IR blaster. And within that punch hole at the top of the screen sits a 16 megapixel f2.4 selfie camera. The selfies come out all right, I guess you could say, and the bokeh effect doesn't do the best in terms of edge detection, but it still kind of looks a bit natural. But what about the video and mic quality? Yo, what's up guys, this is Technic recording a selfie video on the brand new Redmi Note 11 Pro 5G. It is capped at 1080p and 30 FPS when recording using the selfie cam, but this is a pretty well priced device, so it's understandable. Let me know what you guys think of the audio and video quality when recording using the selfie cam on the brand new Redmi Note 11 Pro 5G. It's a bit of a bummer since the global version does actually support 60 FPS at 1080p selfie recording, so I guess we'll have to forgive that one. Once again, in this global version, we do have a side-mounted fingerprint sensor over here, which is physical, not underneath the display, despite it being an AMOLED panel, that being a 6.67-inch AMOLED panel, which packs in 395 pixels per inch thanks to its Full HD Plus resolution, DCI-P3 color gamut rating, and HDR10 support, 1200 nits of max brightness, and 120 Hz refresh rate. You can choose between 60 and 120, but do note that this is a fixed refresh rate and it cannot dynamically or adaptively adjust between, say, 10 and 120. If it's at 120, it's always at 120, but we are also kitted with 360 Hz touch sampling rate to make things nice and snappy when moving around your finger on your device. We are also slapped with MIUI 13, though this time skinned over Android 11 and not Android 12, strangely enough. There are Google services over here and they work pretty well, as you'd expect since this is the global version of the device, and MIUI 13 is pretty decent. It's actually less about features and more about optimizations, which leads us to 8 gigs of LPDDR4X RAM that can be optimized to use an extra 3 gigs of RAM extension, though do bear in mind this uses the UFS storage on board. And powering the device is the new 6nm Snapdragon 695 octa-core chipset and supposedly has 15% faster processing. And when you move over to the battery settings, we now have a new performance mode, which was actually introduced within MIUI 12.5. And enabling that yields an AnTuTu score of 405,259 points. And thanks to this being a Xiaomi device, we can enable an FPS counter within the developer options, and hopping into a game here, that being Bullet Force, running on ultra graphics and max FPS, meaning it has no frames per second cap. We're ranging between 86 and 120 frames per second, and for such a budget-friendly phone, that's more than impressive if you ask me. But now it's time to give a listen to those dual stereo speakers paired with Dolby Atmos. The Redmi Note 11 Pro 5G has truly stepped up Xiaomi's mid-range segment game thanks to its better optimized software, more than decent performance in terms of benchmarks and gaming, thanks to the new Snapdragon 695 chipset, which is more than capable of running its 120Hz 6.67-inch AMOLED display that packs in accurate colors and extremely high brightness levels. Its design is nice and subtle, with a hint of elegance, and its refined camera module houses a camera system that takes more than decent photos and videos at this price range, though 4K resolution or 60 FPS video recording would have been nice to see. The star of the show, however, is its huge 5000 mAh battery capacity and extremely fast 67-watt turbo charging, making it easy for me to recommend the Redmi Note 11 Pro 5G to anyone looking for one of the best mid-range, budget-friendly smartphones 2022 has to offer. For a more detailed review on the device, be sure to check out my full review of the Redmi Note 11 Pro Plus, which I made a few months back, that only differs in CPU, battery size, and charging speed. This is Tech Nick, and I'll catch you in the next one.